governing DeFi, so how to govern a DeFi-led world. We eventually will have 4 speakers here, hopefully. One will join as soon as we've got some technical issues sorted. But I'd like to introduce you to Denis, Steven, and Rex. So let's get going. Denis, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us what you're up to at Vera Labs?
Sure. Hey, everyone. My name is Denis. I'm the founder and CEO of Vera Labs. We're building a decentralized protocol called Vera. And basically, what we're trying to contribute to this Web3 space is NFTs right now are pretty much dead assets. You can buy and sell it. You can't do a lot more things financially with them. So what we do is we enable 2 services, rentals and mortgages, in the financial decentralized way. With Vera, you can lend your assets to generate income, rent someone else's assets, or if you can't afford one or don't want to sell your crypto to buy one, you can take a loan out as a mortgage or financing to go purchase your favorite NFT. That's what Vera does.
Fantastic. Sounds great. We'll get into that soon. Rex, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us what you're up to? Oh, you're muted, Rex.
Rex from DeFi Safety. We rate DeFi protocols on process quality and transparency. So we've done 170 on 7 chains to date. We've been doing it since the start of DeFi summer. And in order to help with governance, this helps define standards on what a protocol should say to their users publicly so that they understand what they're getting into. And with that, they're better able to govern.
Very interesting, Rex. And we will definitely get into that and hacks in particular and transparency when we get into the session. Steven, would you like to introduce yourself and MahaDAO?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. So my name is Steve. I'm the creator of MahaDAO. And what we're trying to do is create a decentralized stablecoin that is not pegged to the US dollar. And the difference is that, or the reason for doing that is to create a new kind of stable currency that protects your wealth or does not depreciate your purchasing power. So if you look at the US dollar today, we have high amounts of inflation. In other countries where the situation is worse, like Venezuela, you have massive inflation where your currency itself cannot buy, let's say, a bag of bread as it used to maybe a year before. So this currency that we're creating is a new kind of stable coin that maintains purchasing power over time, and it is decentralized and governed by a DAO, and that's what we're building.
Very interesting. Thanks very much, Steven. Okay, so hopefully Elena will be able to join us soon. We'll be able to talk about some layer 2 stuff. But yeah, before we start, I just want to get your insight on where you think the DeFi market is at the moment. We're all hitting slightly different aspects of it here. So I'm founder of finance.vote. We make DAO tooling. So we're working very much in the DAO space. We've done some DeFi stuff. I'm very interested in what's your perception on the state of the DeFi market at the moment and how it matches up with where it was in, say, the DeFi summertime. Denis, have you got any thoughts on that? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. The DeFi space right now, I would say, is pretty much maturing, especially infrastructure making it work. I guess an article I can talk about from a couple weeks ago, which is a major stark contrast to 3 years ago. I don't know if anyone remember where I think Mr. Demon of JP Morgan was basically saying Bitcoin or cryptocurrency is a scam. Bitcoin will fail. Well, just a couple weeks ago, the head of Bank of America came out and say, I think DeFi is a bigger disruptor and threat to the banking industry than Bitcoin itself. So I think we've gone a long way.
Absolutely. You can definitely sense the changing in the narrative from even last year. And we've just got Elena, actually. So that's fantastic news. Elena, would you like to quickly introduce yourself and what you're up to at Metis?
Can you hear me?
I can now. We can't see
Okay,
you.
awesome. Okay, hi everyone. So sorry, I have a little bit of the technical difficulties. Yeah, my name is Elena Sinelnikova. I am a co-founder and a CEO of Metis. You can find us at metis.io, at Metis.dao, Telegram, Metis.dao, Twitter. So what we are building, and we're going mainnet next week. This is a layer 2 solution, optimistic rollup with a built-in DAO infrastructure. So, and we do it the way that in our optimistic rollup, I know what, if you know what optimistic rollup is, this is processing transactions in the batches and therefore lowering the gas fees this way. Usually in the classic optimistic rollup, all transactions are sitting in one chain. So therefore all the projects are submitting transactions to one chain and to one sequencer. So this is so we optimized it the way that every project, every company that joins our layer 2 has their own chain rolls up. And then transactions get committed over the pool of the sequencers. So that allows us to build custom permissions for each chain, and therefore the DAO that you can build on Metis you can have different configurations. For example, you can build a non-profit DAO, or you can build a commercial DAO, or you can build a corporation. So in community, you can build a volunteer organization, and all of this is on chain with all the funds transfer with its own messenger. So you can have a kind of like separate chain for your DAO with the low gas fees on Ethereum. And everything, of course, is secured via layer 1 Ethereum, because this is an optimistic rollup.
Thanks, Elena. Very interesting. So we were just giving a kind of overview of where we thought the DeFi market was at. I think one of the things that is about to change is the layer 2s coming online. Your chain is starting next week and hitting mainnet. So I think we've had, definitely a big narrative change. DeFi is much more mainstream. Everyone, including, some of the biggest names in the world in finance and elsewhere, are talking about it. I think the technology is maturing to the point we've got, significant scaling. Rex, what about the hacks? We're still seeing quite a few DeFi disasters. What's your perception on the state of that at the moment?
It's maturing, and if you look at, say, the Cream incident, it was using in an innovative way the sophisticated tools that they could use that could be used together. And Cream had their lending pool, and there was a vulnerability there. So effectively, what happens is you get innovation, and then you get the correction for the innovation. And it happens fast, and it happens openly. And an awful lot of other protocols saw what happened on Cream and did a correction. So, I mean, I think it's going in a good direction, and the maturity and the improvements are really good to see. But it's going to be a bumpy ride. It's still young.
Yeah, I agree. So I think for those who hadn't seen it, Cream Finance is a product. I think it was about 130 million or thereabouts dollars that was stolen, and utilizing a flash
130 million, just a small fraction of what they have, but it hurts.
Yeah, absolutely. So you get these kind of composability risks, right, where there's different product. So? Tell us a little bit about how DeFi safety mitigates some of these issues.
We look at it from a process quality perspective. So we don't write audits, we don't do audits, we read the audits. And we give a score. We have a fixed process. So we have 23 questions, and we go through each protocol, and we look at their public data without telling them. We go through, we score it, then we take the report and we show it to them privately and say, did we miss anything? Is there anything to improve? And we try to improve them. Sometimes the answer is just put some information on a web page and your score goes way up. It can be done very fast. And then if we put the scores out, and we're very clear, if it's a 5% score, you get a 5% score. And if they come back later and they say, I want to get a higher score, we're all there to help them. But what we do two things. For the users, we give a straightforward quality score, which you can look at quickly and say, do I want to invest in these guys? And you look at the score and say yes or no. And for the developers, we're helping to develop standards on what they really should show to the users in order to be fair for everybody.
Interesting. So, in terms of transparency, what's your perception on pseudo-anonymous teams and teams that are, essentially avatars?
We are in favor of it. I mean, with the regulatory situation now, it's clear that that's going to be there, but it is one question. So if you've got an anon team, then one question you'll be down and you might be able to get a 92 ideally. So we do consider it a negative. It's better if everybody's public, but not a big thing.
Yeah, but it's not weighted so badly as to put users off it. That makes a lot of sense. So yeah, I guess another one of the big changes in the context for DeFi over the last year is the kind of macroeconomic context. Stephen, you mentioned inflation, which we're starting to see. The price of milk's going up in many places, and people are seeing real household level inflation. You're working on a free float stablecoin, if I'm correct, which means it's not just a fiat collateralized or even Ethereum or Bitcoin collateralized. You've got a mixture of a basket of assets. Can you tell us how you govern that and where that's going?
Yeah, sure. So it's a very interesting model what we're working on, and essentially this narrative of inflation is becoming stronger and stronger, along with the price of BTC as well. So what we're creating is this new stable currency that is backed by 80% fiat, 15% gold, and 5% Bitcoin. And so what that does is that it gives you the best of both worlds. It gives you the best of fiat and the best of gold and Bitcoin. So you get the stability of fiat, but also the price appreciation of gold and Bitcoin. So how do we maintain this? Well, essentially, as a DAO, as a decentralized organization, we have token holders that essentially vote on changes to this composition. So every 6 months or so, token holders come together and they sort of vote on whether they should maybe, let's say, increase their percentage of Bitcoin in the backing or decrease, and so on and so forth. And this effectively makes it decentralized, but also keeps the innovation of a non-USD pegged stablecoin alive.
Interesting. So the governance there is you're actually passing over the collateralization decisions over to the users. Where do you see governance moving to? What are the pain points, and what do you think the trends are needed for improved governance of stablecoins?
Sure. So, I mean, governance in general today with a lot of DAOs are still maturing, right? So, we see that while there has been a lot of DAOs that have come about over a year or two ago, we still see that there is a lot more maturity that needs to come into the space, and that is happening pretty soon. If you're familiar, recently there was a very successful airdrop by ENS, Ethereum Name Service, and it's supposed to be one of the largest airdrops to date, wherein they are moving towards a DAO model, right? And so I think we are pretty soon going to see DAOs come back as at the center of the narrative pretty soon.
Yes, completely agree. So DAOs allow you to essentially decentralize the power away from a small number of keys, a small number of management keys, which I presume Rex is something that you look for. Who controls the keys? Where's the power and focus in that? So I think it's fair to say DAOs are a kind of fairly important component of this. I would say this year has been the year of NFTs. I think there's not going to be many people who's going to disagree with that. So Denis, tell us about mortgaging NFTs. That sounds just fascinating. Can you expand on it a little bit? Tell us what Vera Network are working on, and how does governance play into this at all yet?
Sure, absolutely. So one quick thing on top of my head when it comes to governance is you'll start seeing some interesting use cases related to NFT. That's not just doing drops in crypto art, for instance, right? There are organizations like Uniswap and Curve Finance are already using NFTs to represent liquidity positions, or basically have it on the roadmap to achieve that. But what's very interesting is seeing NFTs help with making governance in the DeFi space a lot more fluid. So, for instance, recently Yearn Finance had a hack where it's a lot of their holders were insured by Nexus Mutual, and from what I understand is NFTs now allow folks that purchase insurance policies to basically identify their liquidity positions within Yearn Finance, and if these positions were moved through various or multiple DeFi platforms, they could essentially be all tied back to the same identity of whoever's insured. So anyway, these are pretty new and fascinating uses of NFTs, and I think we'll see a lot more innovation on that side moving forward. But specifically, what Vera is focused on is solving the issue of lending and liquidity in the NFT space. I mean, there are folks working on many different sectors, and I think, DeFi and NFTs is still young. I mean, people are still trying to figure out how to use DeFi beyond doing drops at the moment, and institutions just getting a hold to understand what DeFi is after spending 10 years on understanding what Bitcoin is. So I still think that there's a lot more room. There's a big disparity that needs to be caught up between legal institutions, other institutions in the real world compared to DeFi space. But what Vera is pushing the limits of innovation. There are a lot of people, when NFTs come to mind, they think about, oh, NFT is an asset. I would like to use it as collateral to take a loan out of it. That's why I call peer-to-peer loans. Vera is not focusing on that. And I think the main reason, as attractive that sounds, is because there's a lot of issues right now with the pricing of NFTs, right? With anonymity, and also with the ease of being able to buy and sell assets on the blockchain, on-chain, you're having issues now with wash trading, where people can basically fix prices or manipulate prices NFTs by buying it on their own and selling it. You don't know if it's the same people. You could basically create your next Bored Ape, 100 of them available, buy 90 of them on your own, and then fix prices on their 10. So I would say these are areas of governance that the industry needs to kind of fix before NFTs start seeing a lot more trustworthy DeFi type use cases. But I think right now, what Vera is really focusing on are the areas that can truly go to market quickly and spur more innovation and adoption. I think that if an asset represented by NFT can generate consistent residual income, that allows a baseline valuation of assets, no matter what the NFT represents, and it creates more stability and on the ability to provide a legitimate valuation for assets. So that's why we're working on rentals. The future, I think the near future, is you don't have an NFT, you can rent it. If, let's say, you want to go, this is what we're doing right now soon in a future event, I just came from New York City, Bored Ape through a yacht club event. If you don't own a Bored Ape, you can't go into this event, right? So imagine I don't have one because I didn't get on board early. Well, guess what? Go on the Vera marketplace, or go on the marketplace and enable Vera, go rent a Bored Ape from somebody who has one, and boom, you can get in. Ticketing, these are real world use cases that you can see happening right now, and Vera is at the forefront of making that happen. And then on the mortgage point of view, we're basically looking at access. So, play to earn industry, it may not be attractive to a lot of people. Some people think it's a fad, but I look at it as a big groundbreaking use case for a lot of developing countries like Southeast Asia, where the average salary is $150 a month, and using play to earn, they can make an extra $10 to $40 a day. That's a really big impact to them. And so the ability to help people afford assets, to generate income in these types of use cases and experiment with it and help push the industry forward, I think it spawns a new type of thinking to enable something I call social DeFi. Think social finance, right? How do you solve issues of poverty, solve issues with global microfinancing, but using DeFi to achieve it? So I think Vera wants to kind of position themselves as one of the first movers in peer-to-contract, peer-to-peer rentals and mortgages for social good, and to push the limits of innovation. So hopefully that answers your question.
It does, Dennis. You've actually explained NFT lend. Those couple of use cases really opened my eyes to why that's an important primitive in this case, where you can, particularly the events use case, temporary, the kind of temporary ownership of an NFT for flexing purposes didn't really sell me as a kind of vibrant use case. But yeah, you're right. The play to earn and the event based use cases, that's absolutely super interesting. So if this year was the year of NFTs, people are starting to say the next year is the year of the DAOs. I don't know if people agree with me on that or where this is going. It's whether that's wishful thinking on my part. But Elena, you're building a chain for DAOs to set themselves up. Can you tell us a little bit more about your concept of you're trying to iterate on the concepts a little bit and create decentralized autonomous companies, if that's right? And you have a rather large ecosystem fund running at the moment. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
That's correct. Yes, our ecosystem fund is one of the DCs, and we call our DAOs that on our platform is DCs, decentralized autonomous companies, and we do it for the reason because usually DAO is just tokens, governance, voting. That's it. Right. So, but in the infrastructure that we're building, it supports much more. So it supports the company operation. Right now, lots of DeFi companies, not only DeFi companies, exchanges, they go and they form the DAOs by themselves, right? But how to manage people in the DAO? There's no DAO infrastructure right now that actually suits this to manage the company, to manage employees, to hire people, to pay salaries, to distribute rewards, to actually impose maybe memberships, taxes, do it all on chain. And that's the infrastructure that we're building for, because yes, we also envision that it's going to be a need in the near future for for companies, not only for the existing DAOs but the new ones that come in into the market to manage their work in a decentralized way and on chain as well. And I cannot tell you the future, but the way where it is going right now, yes, companies are going decentralized. Right now, we have lots of Web2 companies that would like to try it, to move to blockchain, try the new company structure like that. So we'll see. For that we provide the infrastructure, and in this infrastructure we have the fund to support our ecosystem. So our investors, they came together, they formed the DEC, the DAO. They put forward $100 million right now, and it will be bigger, of course, this pot to support the ecosystem, to invest into the new projects that come into this ecosystem.
Fantastic. $100 million for DAOs next year. I think it might be the year of the DAO in that case. So yeah, let's kind of wrap up with a kind of overview of where things might be going over the next couple of years. Has anyone got any thoughts or ideas on future trends from their perspectives? We've picked up that DAOs are going to be big. There's funding coming for them. The tooling needs to be built, and the infrastructure's starting to crystallize. We've got NFTs that are maturing into getting utility, and they're integrating into DeFi. Stablecoins are going to be big. Is there anything else? And I particularly think from a regulatory point of view, Rex, almost the kind of self-policing dynamic that's happening from DeFi safety is very interesting. So maybe on the regulatory point, is there how's the current context internationally? How's that working with you and your businesses? I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that, Rex.
I think for DeFi, especially the year coming, will be regulatory, though it'll probably be years, because in anything government, it takes a lot longer than expected, but it's going to be huge. And with DAOs, will the DAO be able to be fully legal? And that will change the way DAOs work, because I think DAOs are kind of a bit of a defense mechanism, because I couldn't run this as a company because the regulatory environment is not clear. So it's super interesting. And the decentralized autonomous companies, I'll be interested in that, Elena, because we look at it, we operate as a legal company, so we don't have to be a DAO, but we want to be part of the community. So it's a thought for us. And I'm sure there's a lot of other service companies in the industries that will be looking at that.
Yeah, I find that the whole company, where the line between DAOs and companies and now decentralized autonomous companies is going to be super interesting. So I'll let anyone to jump in just to wrap up. If there's any final thoughts anyone has.
I think the evolution of NFTs will increase the experimentation with decentralized autonomous companies, you're looking at things like appraisals, because NFTs really can represent any type of asset. Appraising a real estate asset is very different than a CryptoPunk. But regardless, in every asset, there are domain experts who understand that specific type of asset and looking into NFTs. So you're going to have federated organizations, unions, trade unions, groups that represent different assets that are important to them, and they're looking to either tokenize or whatnot. And the governance of these specific assets, creating proper standards for identity management, onboarding protocols, those kind of things will be figured out, I think. And this mixed match of all this, I would say, evolution into different types of use case of NFTs and experimentation is what makes the Web3 industry wonderful, because with the innovation, for the first time in human history, I would say the big institutions are having competition that they're not used to. And competition is always good for the little guy. So that's what I'll say.
Absolutely, Dennis. And I can totally understand the need for that human element in the appraisal piece in NFTs and where DAOs might fit in that. And that's an exciting point. Steven, any final thoughts?
No, just to reiterate what everyone else has said, I think it's an exciting time to see all of these innovations come together.
Absolutely. Elena, you want to direct people towards Metis or?
Yeah, as I said, so you can find us at Telegram, Metis DAO, and you can find us at Twitter, Metis DAO. We have a quite large community now, and I would like to actually thank Nick and all the panelists today, and congratulate you. This is a great times that we live in, great space, and it's a great event. And thank you so much for DeFi Live giving us the stage today.
Absolutely. What a time to be alive. Thanks very much, everyone.